Hi, my name is Willow Morris. I'll answer the first question that many people ask themselves when their stare lingers as I pass them by in a store, or they say my pronouns as a question rather than a given. Yes, I am a trans woman. Often when people think of someone who is trans, they think of the bizarre and awkward experiences that get emphasized in various forms of media for the general public's curiosity and amusement. I have had my fair share of those kinds of experiences, yet one that stands out amongst the others is banking sperm. Because that's one of those lovely, awkward things that comes with being trans like me, is that there was a time that amongst my keys and lipstick, I would have a container of my own sperm in my purse as I walk into a clinic so I can have a child after the life-giving, feminizing hormones I'm hoping to take render me practically infertile. What stood out about it wasn't the level of awkwardness or the discomfort I felt about the situation. That was just the state of my existence for most of the first 30 years of my life. What stood out about the experience was a particular nurse and the words she spoke to me. At one of these visits, she looked at me, and in a moment of compassion and insight, absent of the typical amusement or nervousness I see in the eyes of those I would meet, she just simply said, "I bet this is terrible for you." It absolutely was. Even the memory of it makes me want to gag and shudder, as do many of the other moments I experienced during my transition, because it goes to the heart of the gender incongruence I feel. As is the case of all my similar experiences, the instances that the media tends to emphasize actually has little to do with who I am, but uses some of the most difficult circumstances of my life as a form of entertainment. Another product of the increased media attention to the trans community is there's this general idea of how trans coming out stories should go, with mildly struggling with the outside world and ultimately triumphing by dramatically coming out and completing the transition process, whatever that is supposed to mean. It's supposed to be a story with the same cadence and pattern of a fairy tale. And indeed, I have felt the pressure to tell my life story following a certain beat, because there's this fear if your life story doesn't conform to the cookie cutter coming out story of trans people, then you won't be believed and seen as a fraud. Don't get me wrong, mine is overall a happy story, one of redemption coming from a life longing to die almost all the time, not being able to hardly function from my bouts of depression that lasted months, hiding in my apartment because I was too anxious and ashamed to be around people. I couldn't hold down a job. I had given up on any life goals, and my life was spent just trying to hang on another day. It took me 27 years to find salvation through dresses and cute eyeshadow, and 3 years later, when a judge declared my legal name to be Willow, it marked a new era for me, where my symptoms didn't chain me down and control my life. I have a beautiful wife, an amazing 2-year-old child, a master's degree in professional counseling of all things, because I was given space to breathe my being into existence. I will be ever grateful to share the beautiful experience of being unshackled from my depression and anxiety, because I'm one of the lucky ones. But that isn't the full story, because my depression and anxiety didn't just go away and leave me unscathed after my transition. I carry within me the darkness of years of torture and hell of my mind's own making. On the surface, many people see how much happier I am, but underneath there is a profound brokenness. I don't always know what to make of my past, of all the senseless pain, growing up trying to be a man I never was, feeling the shame giving up so much of myself away in exchange for other people's acceptance. I enjoy the company of others now, and I long to connect in ways I never was capable of before. Yet I am just now learning how to simply be myself around other people. It's something I was not permitted earlier in my life. My mind races at times trying to read a crowd, out of mere habit, trying desperately not to make anyone uncomfortable, because the anxiety of other people's disapproval is still sometimes unbearable and erodes any sense of worth I see in my existence, and I feel the full brunt of the dark loneliness of not being seen. Even in my brightest moments, fully embracing love for life, I can be shaken right back into the darkness that used to consume me. I love hiking, especially now, and I love scenic views that comes from cliff sides or high up in the mountains. Yet every time I get to somewhere that has a steep drop-off, my heart pounds, and I begin to freeze up. Because for me, cliff sides used to call to my being, with promises of beautiful release from my suffering, with a small payment of my life, which I despised anyway. I don't know how many times I would stand on the brink of oblivion, wanting so desperately to jump, but my body would go catatonic in a desperate bid to follow its prime directive of self-preservation. This was repeated so many times that my body carries the trauma of being constantly threatened with non-existence. And all those memories come rushing back as I do something as simple as hiking a cliffside path. I think this is where many individuals misunderstand the trans experience, and perhaps the experience of many of us who also struggle with mental health. There are well-meaning individuals who glorify what we go through, framing it in terms of courage and strength of being. And I would certainly describe the behavior of my trans siblings in such terms, but what gets missed is the desperation that finally pushed someone like me to come out and be who I am. I risked my marriage, I put my career on hold, I lost half my family connections, and suffered the shame of people who claimed to love me all my life, not even being willing to stand beside me during family photos, because ultimately the pain of not asserting my true self was so unbearable that I was willing to give up just about anything just to find a shred of healing. So if I can communicate anything about my experience, is that for me, recovering from struggles with mental health is not some fairy tale story of light overcoming darkness. It is a story of holding within me the darkness of all the pain that I've carried throughout the years in the same space as the light of healing that transition has brought to my life. So when I go hiking along a cliffside as the sun is going down, and I feel the terror as my body reacts as if jumping to my death is imminent, it takes away nothing from the healing I have found. I may still be in pain, but I'm fully myself, and I'm alive to watch the sunset another day.